Habs news and notes for September 15th, 2021. Rookie camp opens. Chucky rumors. McDavid calls out the refs. Bozak signs. The anniversary of the Rockets' retirement. A little Wayne Gretzky story. Very interesting one. And more. Hey, everybody. I'm Rick. Welcome to Talkin' Habs, where you get your daily fix of Bleu Blanc Rouge. Hey, everybody. So welcome to News and Notes. Got a lot of different stories about the Montreal Canadiens, and we're going to waste no time and get right into it. So it's that time of the year where there's lots of stories happening as training camps approach. The rookie camp opened today, and we've got lots of different stories. First up, is KK having visa problems? So it seems Jesperi Kotkaniemi not allowed to be with the Hurricanes yet. It seems that it's a visa problem. And the reason for this is because of the offer sheet and KK not knowing where he's going to end up, either Montreal or Carolina. So I guess he can't start the process for the work on the visa, and it means he's going to be a little bit late. So it's just that he's having trouble with visas because of the lateness, I imagine, of his application. Next up, there's a ton of Chucky rumors. So Alex Galchenyuk is a UFA, and the rumors are out there. And this started before not matching the offer by Montreal and then the acquiring of Christian Dvorak. And the rumors were that, man, get Chucky in here. He did so well with the Leafs. I mean, the Leafs fixed him last year. So you got to go out and get him. So the rumors are out there. And I make nothing of the rumors. I'd be almost shocked if Montreal signs Chucky. I could see a PTO. There's no risk at all to that, and there's no money involved. So I can see a PTO. I still don't think he's coming here, and I don't see why they would reach out for Chucky. He's done nothing in the last 2 years to make you think that he is the Chucky that was here when he scored 30 goals, put up 255 points, I think, in about 400 games for Montreal. So he's not the same guy. He's not coming back. Next up, Connor McDavid has called out the refs again, and I'm all for this. So these are the quotes from him. I mean, we all know the problems with the refs last season. It seems refereeing is getting worse in the NHL, not getting better. They don't seem to care about the rules, if you ask me. So McDavid says, you obviously want to call the rule book. That's what it's there for. If you call each and every one, there's lots of penalties. But if there's lots of penalties, there's lots of penalties. That's just the way it is. The rule book's there for a reason, and you want to call it with integrity. If you let guys get away with certain things, they're going to keep getting away with it. It's a tough job that the referees have, and it's something that I don't envy. I can't disagree with McDavid on that. It's a bit controversial. Yeah, if they call every single thing by the book, you're going to have way too many penalties. But there's got to be a line somewhere where they call it as close as they can. Maybe you don't call every little, the little things you don't call, but they miss so many big calls. Man, it's inexcusable if you ask me. So I lean more towards what McDavid said there, where if there's a lot of penalties, there's a lot of penalties. The players will adjust and start taking less penalties. That's what I think will happen. It might be boring for a little while. We've gone through this once before. But something has to be done because the refereeing is atrocious, and I don't know how else to put it. The refereeing in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the games the Montreal Canadiens were in that I saw was atrocious. And I know from hearing things from around the league during the regular season and in the playoffs, it's no better anywhere else. So it's not just me as a Habs fan complaining. I think every city fans complain, and the refereeing is bad. Something's got to happen. Next up, Tyler Bozak. So a lot of rumors, a lot of people wanting Montreal to sign Tyler Bozak as, depth, or to give him a PTO and have him come to camp and see what he can do. Well, that's out the window, as St. Louis Blues have signed him to a 1-year, $750,000 contract. So that's league minimum. He's played for the Blues before, obviously. He's 35 years old. He's played 764 NHL games. Listen, I didn't think Tyler Bozak moved the needle for Montreal. I didn't see any reason for them to even really give him, PTO. Okay, there's zero risk to that, so okay, but I didn't see them doing that. They have enough depth right now at center, and they don't really have the cap space to go out and offer even a league minimum salary like that, I don't think, to anybody. Next up, September 15th, 1960, the Rocket retires. He announces his retirement after 18 seasons with Montreal. He won 8 cups with Montreal. He was the first player to score 50 goals in a season, and also the first player to do that in 50 games, and that was all in the same season, because back then that's all they played, 50 games. So he scored in 50 goals, was in 50 games. So it was a big milestone. In 978 games for the Habs, all with the Habs, he wouldn't have played anywhere else. 544 goals, 422 assists for 966 points. He also had, for an elite player like he was, he had an amazing 1,285 penalty minutes. Because the Rocket in the early days of his career, I mean, he had to fight a lot. He got beat up and pushed around, and everything was done to him, and he had to stand up for himself. So he had a lot of penalty minutes. In the playoffs, 133 games, 82 goals, 44 assists for 126 points, and 188 penalty minutes. So that penalty minutes to games played, that ratio seems to stay even in the playoffs. And that's almost a point a game in the playoffs. The Rocket was an amazing hockey player. From the opponent's blue line in, he was scary. Just looking at his eyes, you would want to get out of the way. His goal was to get to the net. That's all he thought about. Once he crossed the blue line, that's where he was going, and he was quite successful at it. I know he wasn't in great shape when he retired, but you figure, he played 978 games. Like, maybe I would have liked him to play the 22 games to get to 1,000 and maybe hit 1,000 points as well, and that would have been really nice. But I know when he retired, I don't think it was possible for him to do that anymore. Next up, there's a really interesting story about Wayne Gretzky. And for me, the weird thing is that it's a 41-year-old story, and I've never heard about this before. And what is it about? Wayne Gretzky was a hair away from becoming a Montreal Canadien in 1980 at the draft. Instead of the Montreal drafting Doug Wickenheiser, they had a deal in place to have that first round pick. They got that first round pick, and Sam Pollock kind of finagled this for a couple of seasons, made a deal, figuring out who would be the last place team to get, so they can get that first pick to get Wayne Gretzky. I won't go into all the details here because I'm going to be doing a video about it, but it had to do with how the NHL changed the draft from an amateur draft to an entry draft, lowered the age, because that's what Pollock was counting on, that Gretzky at 18 would be draft eligible, because that before that, I believe it was 20 or 21. They dropped it to 19 in 79 and 18 in 1980, and then there was a contract situation that caused Gretzky to not be eligible for the draft, and that's why Montreal drafted Doug Wickenheiser. Still made a mistake. They should have got Denis Savard, but that's why they drafted Wickenheiser. They were hoping to draft Gretzky. I'm going to go into much fuller detail about this in a video in the next couple of days, and it's just a really interesting story. So imagine Montreal Canadiens draft Wayne Gretzky in 1980. How many more cups would we have? What a difference in the history of Montreal from the 80s to present if Wayne Gretzky had been drafted by Montreal. Just think about it. Crazy. Wayne Gretzky, Guy Lafleur, near the end of his career, probably wouldn't have retired, would have stuck around. It would have been just an amazing difference, and it was just that close. And Wayne Gretzky was a Habs. So look for my video coming out in a couple days. I'm going to go into detail about it, and hopefully you guys will check that out.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Next up is Habs rookie camp opens today. It's all medicals and weigh-ins and stuff like that for today. They hit the ice either later in the day or tomorrow for sure. So here's the roster of the players who are invited here. Tag Bertuzzi, he's been invited. It's a tryout thing, right? There's a bunch of guys coming in on tryouts. Tag Bertuzzi is probably the only name that anybody will recognize because of the Bertuzzi. He is Todd Bertuzzi's son, and I imagine a cousin to Tyler. So he apparently, got a lot of offense in him, but he hasn't been able to establish himself. Can he make the team? I don't know, but he can maybe establish himself as a part of the organization and get an offer or a contract of some sort. So you got Gianni Fairbrother, Caden Gooley, definitely going to be there. Raphael Harvey-Pinard, I love that player. Cam Hillis is there. Riley Kidney, Jan Mishak, Mattias Norlander, who I think will make an impression here. I kind of think Riley Kidney might as well, and Mishak, too, is going to be a good player. Jesse Alonen is also there. Jesse Alonen, apparently, probably the most NHL-ready prospect that's there. So interesting to see how he looks there. And on the goalies, I don't know two of them, but Alexis Gravel was offered a tryout. He played for, I believe it was Ruin Narandis, who was a teammate of Raphael Harvey-Pinard, and a couple of years ago in the Memorial Cup. I mean, he was a really good player. And I might have it wrong. He might have been a Halifax Moosehead. I could have it wrong. But a really good goalie. It's got potential. With Charlie Lindgren having left the organization, bringing in a young guy like that to grow along with Primo, I think that might be a really good thing. And I kind of expect Alexis Gravel might prove himself worthy of a contract offer and a spot in the organization. I think this kid, Alexis Gravel, adds a lot to the depth, a goaltender for Montreal going down the road. We want you to become a member of Talking Habs. Next up, there's an interview with the defensive coach from the Frölunda team in Sweden in the SHL that Mattias Norlander plays for. And they basically interviewed him to talk about Norlander and how he's progressed and all that kind of stuff. So a little bit from that. So his name is Christopher Naslund, and he's the defensive coach there. So he says Mattias has grown into his role after a year in the SHL. He started very well last year, but got into a dip after his injuries. Suffered while with the national team. He worked himself up and finished strong. This year, he has started on that level that he finished last season. He is more secure with the puck, covering it better. We knew he would be good offensively this year. He gets to use his shot on the power play as well, and he has scored twice in Champions Hockey League already. It is great to see him play in such a strong, powerful power play unit, a unit that is starting to click, and they start to really understand each other. A lot has happened in that area of the game for Norlander and for us. Frölunda's style is to try to stop the opponents already in the offensive zone or on our own blue line at the latest. That is his role on the ice. And sometimes his game will be wrong, and sometimes he won't have the support that he should have from forwards as well as his defensive partner. That can also affect the gap control that you mentioned. I guess they were talking about gap control. We have work to do when it comes to the gap. Most definitely, that's where his room for improvement is. I'm not worried, though, because he is such a good skater. I think it's easy to point out the gap and defensive coverage as we know how good he is on his skates. He has to work a bit more with his feet in order to fix that. We have a little bit of a different approach here. The roles are very important to us. He could definitely be part of the penalty kill team, but for the moment, we will go this route. It might change over time, but we start this way. It also means that he will get 2 straight minutes on the power play, so there are pros with the system as well. Everyone has their own niche. We have roles, and then you fill those roles. As Mattias plays on the first power play unit, he will get a lot of time on ice during the special team assignment, which lets us use others to cover the penalty kill. As I said, Mattias could play in that role as well. There's no doubt about it, but it all comes down to the structure of the team. So what I'm seeing here is Mattias Norlander is going to be a really good offensive defenseman, a puck mover. I don't know that he's going to be a guy that plays on the penalty kill. He may be a little bit defensively liable, but you know what? Most puck movers are, right? Most. I'm not saying all, but most puck movers can be a little bit defensively challenged, let's say. I think Norlander will, at the very least, he'll get to the point where he's good enough defensively that he's not hurting you. And I think this kid has a good chance to be that puck mover that we want, that top 4, maybe top 2 puck mover going forward. So there's a lot of potential with Norlander, and it's nice to hear what his defensive coach says about him. So next up, there's a lot of talk about Norlander making the Habs, and listen, I think it's a possibility. But here's 3 guys that I think at a rookie camp that have a shot to actually, if not make the Habs out of camp, but to play at some point during the season. I think these 3 guys are the most legitimate shots to make a mark with the team at some point during the season. Number 3, one of my favorites, Raphael Hargreeves, drafted in the 7th round, I think 201st overall 2 seasons ago. When I saw that they drafted this kid, because he made a big impression on me in the Memorial Cup, the previous one to his draft year. And I thought, wow, in the 7th round, how did this kid get to the 7th round and not be drafted? I said, that's a great pickup. He's gonna be great. And I pointed out in my video after they had done that I keep an eye on this kid. Now, this kid has progressed all the way through since then, and I think he's going to be a really good Brendan Gallagher type, maybe not rise as high as Gallagher and be a first liner, but I think he's going to be an awesome 3rd-line winger who can score and can play defense, super smart, high hockey IQ. And this kid, he might not be an elite scorer, but man, he puts up points every year. Wherever he is, he puts up points. So yeah, I like Raphael Hargreeves, and I think we're going to see him on the Habs for, I don't know how many games, but for some, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe 8-9 games, But yeah, I see him for a few games here. And down the road, I think he'll be a Hab. And if he's not, and they use him in a trade, he'll be an NHLer. Next is Jesse Alonen. They say he's the most NHL ready of the prospects right now. And he's already played 1 game. He played 1 game last season for Montreal. I don't think he had any points in, I think, 11 and a half minutes or something like that. But Jesse Alonen looks like he's ready, and I think he's going to get a shot. I don't know that he sticks with the club, considering all of the wingers and everything there, but I think he gets a shot. And if there's an injury to a forward or a winger, I think is a good possibility that you might see Alonen come up and have more than a cup of coffee with Montreal. Guy that I think, absolutely for sure, is going to make the team, and that is Caden Gooley. Caden Gooley, I think, will be the captain for the World Junior Championship team. I think we're going to see him possibly break camp with Montreal. I don't think he's going to stick for the whole year, but I think he might break camp and get a few games, 4 or 5 games, and then they send him back. I think it's a great future for Gooley. I think it was a good 1st-round pick. I know a lot of people don't really think that, but I think this guy's going to end up being a really good 1st-round pick, a top 2 or at worst a top 4 defenseman, a guy that can kind of do everything, right? He can play defensive, be very physical, and he's got offense in him as well. And I think this is going to be a really good player for Montreal going forward. So yeah, so those are 3 guys I think you got to look for, keep your eye on, that they're going to get a shot this year. So these are guys to watch for in rookie camp, and if they do have a really good rookie camp, you can expect to see them do well in the training camp and possibly find a spot maybe at some point in the lineup here in the big leagues. So Ryan Poehling won't be there this year as far as rookie camp. He wasn't invited. But these are 5 guys who I think will impress us this season in the rookie camp. So we'll go backward 5-1. Now, obviously, I just had this guy up here. So Raphael Hargreeves is going to, I think he's really going to be impressive. He's 22 years old. He's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, at rookie camp. And I think his time is here. I think he's going to be impressive there and go on to the main camp and show something that could get him, as one of the first call-ups during the season. I don't think he'll break camp with Montreal. I'm not saying that, but I think Raphael Hargreeves is going to have a really good rookie camp, and he's going to impress the team, and you're going to see this guy probably next season or the season after that as a regular. But I think next season he's going to get a shot to join the team to some kind of an extent. And yeah, I think he's got a good future ahead of him. Yeah, I talk a lot about Raphael Hargreeves. Something about him, I got this gut feeling this is going to be a good player, a surprisingly good player that he's kind of underrated, and I don't think people think he's as good as I think he is. And I think that's what's going to happen there. So, yeah. Next up, who I just talked about as well, is Jesse Ilonen. If he's going to make the jump with Montreal, I think he's got a shot this year. I don't know that he can crack the lineup as a regular, but I think he's going to get some games. Then they're gonna have to see where he's at as far as an NHL player, whether they'll have him join the team or they'll use him in a trade or whatever. But they've got to evaluate him, and I think Jesse Ilonen is going to get that shot, and we're going to see some of him this season with the big team. He's got good pedigree. His father, Juha. So Juha Ilonen was an NHL player, a former NHL player. He's got good pedigree there. So yeah, I see good things for Ilonen. I just don't know if it'll be here or they move him somewhere to make because there's so many wingers here, right? Next is Jan Mysak. Jan Mysak, he's a bit of a wild card and a bit on the small side. I think he's either 5'9" or 5'10", but he's a solid two-way center with good offensive potential. So Jan Mysak, he's a Czech-born player. Yeah, they used him. I think it was the second pick or the third pick last year in the draft. I didn't know that much about him, but I mean, this kid has good potential. I think his biggest problem is just that his size. If he was a couple inches bigger, I think we'd be talking about him more. So I think he's going to be an NHLer, whether he'll be with Montreal. He's probably a couple seasons away from being here at Montreal or in the NHL, but I think he's going to have a really good rookie camp, and I think he's going to impress you in rookie camp. Next up, back to Kaiden Guhle, because I think Kaiden Guhle is going to be really impressive in rookie camp. He just looks like one of those players that's got what it takes. I don't know how else to describe it. I know a lot of people were disappointed in Guhle being the first round pick last year, 16th overall. But you know what? I just think this kid is really good. I like what I've seen of him in his international play so far. I think he's going to be named the captain of the World Junior Championship team. And I just think this guy's got a really good NHL future. I think he will end up in Laval next season and not go back to the WHL. But it wouldn't surprise me if he does. And I think we could possibly see him joining the team as a regular. Not this season, obviously, but the season after that. I think he's going to be a quick riser, and we're going to be very pleased with his career. How's that? Number one in this list is, of course, Mattias Norlander. Mattias Norlander, I expect at rookie camp definitely to be one of the best players there to show off his talents. I mean, this kid's going to be, I think, a really good offensive defenseman, a puck mover. I mean, he's everything. He's potentially everything that Montreal needs right now. Right now, we need another guy like that. Jeff Petrie is a puck mover and puts up numbers and all that. We've got one. We need another one. And I think Norlander will be that guy. I don't think we'll see him up here as a regular for probably another full season, maybe two. I'm not sure, but I think he's going to end up going back to the SHL, to Frölunda for this season. And I think next season he either makes Montreal or he's in Laval, and then from there he's just a step away from making the big leagues. And I think he will be a solid puck-moving forward, potentially top two, but definitely top four. So Mattias Norlander, I think, will make a big impression on us this year. I think actually both in rookie camp and in the regular camp. That's my opinion. Hey, everybody. So there's, take five. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hey, check out that video over there on the side.